So I've been getting a lot of questions about this little number. This is a GoPro Hero 7, and in this video I want to give you some tips and tricks on how you can improve your video footage for mountain biking. So I've been using this GoPro Hero 7 now for quite a while, and I've been getting fairly attached to it. I've learned over the past couple of months how to really take this little thing to the next level and make my point of view footage and the vlogs I've been filming 10 times better just by using some little simple features in this camera. So what I thought I'd do is I'd put like a list of quick fire tips and tricks together and just go through them step by step and just reel them off and give them to you so you can start getting some better mountain bike GoPro footage. So the first tip is make sure, this is so silly, make sure your camera is charged. The amount of times I've been out with people, and myself included, you get to the top of a trail and then you find your GoPro is either at half battery or worse, it hasn't got any battery. It's just a nightmare because then you can't film your experiences and document what you're doing and share it with your audience or whatever. So I'd always recommend that you make sure you charge this bad boy overnight to make sure it is full of juice. And bonus tip, I would even recommend you go out and you buy a spare battery and take it with you. I mean, look at the size of it. This battery is so small, you could just fit that in your pocket, in a backpack or anything, just to make sure that if you do go on a big ride, you've got enough battery to get you around and share all these cool trails that you're riding. I'll put a link below to where you can get these from on Amazon or something, which ones I'd recommend. I would definitely recommend getting one or maybe even two of these. So tip number 2, the best SD card that I would recommend you use with a GoPro. This, if you can see it, is a SanDisk Extreme SD card. Now, these are the cards that I would recommend you use in a GoPro. There are many other micro SD cards that you can use with GoPros, but I have seen the quality differences between a SD card and one of these Extreme cards, and the difference is night and day. If you want to get really high quality, crisp video footage that you see professional GoPro videographers using, and you're like, how can I get, why does my camera quality not look that good? This SD card potentially could be the reason why. In terms of sizing, I currently use a 32GB card, which is okay. However, I would recommend you get a slightly bigger card if your budget allows it. So maybe a 64GB card or a 128GB card, just so that you don't have to hassle with taking 2 of these round on a ride with you or whatever, or running out of space on your camera when you're out riding. Okay, so that's the setup part of things. Real simple, but if you miss those 3 things, you don't have a decent SD card or battery life, you're not going to be able to use the camera. So make sure you get those 3 steps down first, obviously. Now we'll move into the settings of the camera. These are like my go-to video settings. So a rule of thumb that I always use is try and shoot, or always shoot, in the highest quality that you can. I've got a Hero 7 here, and I'll tell you why I've not got a Hero 8 later in the video. I shoot mainly in 4K. It takes up a little bit more space on the camera, which is why I was saying try and get a bigger card if possible. If you're using the videos, say on YouTube or on Instagram, well, I know Instagram compresses your video quality and reduce it slightly, but there's less chance of things looking like it's been filmed on a potato. And obviously, if you're wanting to upload to YouTube in 4K, you're gonna have to record in 4K. So I would always try and to film in the highest resolution that you can, which is usually 4K. 1080 is okay, but if you are a bit of an OCD person like me and you want the crispest, highest quality footage, go with 4K. How do you make your footage look like it is you are actually going the speed it feels like when you're riding? You know what it's like on a trail. You're riding and it feels absolutely, you're going like Mach 10 down a trail, you like the trees are brushing past you, you feel the wind in your face, you actually feel like you're going ridiculously fast. You put the GoPro on when you get back home and you look at the footage and it is absolutely shit. And you look like you are crawling down the trail and you're like, is that the trail I rode? Are you sure that's me? Am I really that slow? The reason why is probably because you haven't got your shutter speed set at a low enough speed. So when you set your shutter speed at 24, 25 frames per second, which is what I would use if I wanted to make that speed blur effect on my footage. The camera is basically shutting 24, 25 frames every second. And obviously the less it does that, the faster the footage is going to feel. This works in the reverse as well. So if you want to film in slow-mo, say, so if you want to do some really super slow-mo footage, you would want a higher frame rate. So then the camera is able to slow things down and it looks really buttery smooth when you're riding. Obviously it helps if you're going fast to start with as well, but if you do reduce your frame rate down to 24, 25 frames a second, which this Hero 7 and the Hero 8 have the option to do, go with that setting. To add to that as well, so the next tip is field of view. So which field of view should you shoot in? GoPros have a range of field of views you can shoot in. You can shoot in linear, you can shoot in wide, you can shoot in super view. I would always opt for the super view mode when I'm trying to shoot POV footage to come across that's really fast. If you want to shoot slow-mo footage on a Hero 7, I don't know what the Hero 8 is like, you can't shoot in super view and 4K and really high resolution to the slow-mo. You have to either drop the resolution to 270 or 1080 or whatever it is, or 2440 I think it is, or 1080, and then you can up the frame rate. GoPro just won't let you film with super view 4K, like really high frame rate, just has another capacity to do it. 9 times out of 10 I will shoot in super view mode, because when you're riding and say you've got your camera on your chest or your helmet, whatever, the super view gives you that almost only slightly warped effect, not fisheye or anything, but it gives a really good proportion of like the trail you're riding, the handlebars, and your arms as well. So it really gives the viewer, the watcher, a real good feeling of what it's actually like and what you felt like when you were riding down the trail. Okay, so we'll move on to aspect ratio. Aspect ratio basically changes the shape or the dimensions of what your camera shoots in. There's 2 options on a Hero 7. You can either shoot in 16:9 or you can shoot in 4:3. Again, 9 times out of 10, I would just go with 16:9. That will be the best setup for most people. It transfers over really well if you're doing YouTube videos and blogs and stuff like that. If I was making a video on a GoPro primarily to upload to Instagram, say, I would probably opt to change the aspect ratio to 4:3. But you can upload super view 16:9 footage to Instagram. You don't take up as much as that real estate on Instagram, which is the key part of the game. So we'll talk about ISO settings now. ISO settings basically is a way of manipulating the light on your camera. There are a number of different settings on here, and it really does depend on where you're shooting. But let's say you're going mountain biking and you don't want to be messing about with your camera all day. The go-to settings I would use is to set your ISO min at 100 and your ISO max at either 400 or 800 if you are riding in deep, thick, dark woodland. GoPros aren't the greatest cameras when it comes to dark lighting. They just simply can't cope with the changes in light. And if you've ever tried to film in a dark scenario, GoPros just go like pixelated. They just can't cope. But when you're filming when you've got real good natural light sources, these things are really hard to beat. So I would usually keep mine at between 100 and 400 or 100 and 800 if I knew I was going riding in and out of trees that was like, kind of dense woodland or whatever. Most of the time though, if I'm riding, berms in an open landscape or jumps in the open, set your ISO min to 100, ISO max to 400 and you'll be sweet. EVO comp, so I generally set that to minus 0.5, and the reason why is because when I'm riding in really sunny or really like natural lit scenes, you don't want the chance of your footage being blown out. So basically this just reduces down the shadows slightly, I think is the right terminology for it. But when you come into editing your videos, you don't have all this blown out overexposed footage. So it kind of like saves the shadows and saves a bit of the color from your footage. So next tip, GoPro color versus shooting in flat. In the GoPro Hero 7 and beyond, and the new models, you get the option to shoot in GoPro's color, or you can shoot in flat. 9 times out of 10 people watching this, just put it in GoPro color mode, and you will have absolutely great looking colored footage. If, however, you want to have add a certain feel to your footage, so you want to color grade your videos in post editing to make them feel a certain way, or you have a certain style, so you want to make like a cinematic look to your video, that's when you shoot in flat, because it takes pretty much a lot of the color out of your image, so then you can bring it all back in when you're editing. Whereas the GoPro color mode, it does that all for you pretty much. It does 80% of that work for you, and I think it looks absolutely fantastic. I do make some tweaks in the post-editing process of my video editing, just to add my own personal touches on things. For most people watching this, just whack it in GoPro color and just leave it and let GoPro do its thing. It's pretty good at knowing what looks best. So talk about microphones now and wind and sound and all that stuff, because I know a lot of times there's people asking, well, how do you reduce the wind noise when you're riding? Say if you want to do commentary on your videos, sometimes the wind can literally be like you're in like a gale force hurricane.
This is now a category 3!
Can't hear anything.
115 miles per hour!
And it's just like not nice to watch. GoPros have got better over the years with the microphones on. If you look on the cameras as well, these little holes everywhere, these are all microphones on the camera. So it's got a real good way of taking in sounds from everywhere, but that can be a drawback as well as a a positive thing. It's taking in sounds from absolutely everywhere and then it's trying to process it in this little camera. To be honest with you, GoPros aren't the greatest at that. Like a camera that I'm filming on now has a microphone on it which is picking up every bit of sound that I'm talking. It sounds real crisp. GoPros aren't too great at that, but you can get pretty decent audio quality if you know a few cool little tips. So I usually set my microphones on these things to auto, just like GoPro do its thing. And then you have an option to set your wind settings to either wind or stereo, I think it is. I would usually just keep it on the wind setting so it, GoPro tries to reduce the wind where it can. But I would also recommend you get one of these. This is like a phone case that you can buy. Again, there's a link below where you can get these. This is like a phone case that goes around your GoPro and it reduces the wind noise down to pretty much nothing. So if you are doing commentary or you just want a GoPro POV footage that actually sounds like the trail you're riding and actually sounds like you're riding a bike, these things are great. The only downside to them though is they are very delicate. I've already ripped this one. They do come in, the link below, you can get like packs of 2 and whatever, so you've got a spare anyway. They do make the camera look a little bit bigger as well, so if that is going underneath your peak, that might impair your vision a bit, but if it's on your chest or your helmet or whatever, you're not going to see it, and it doesn't weigh anything either, so it's pretty decent. So that's a cool little hack. Another thing you can do as well, which I've seen a lot of people do, is you can buy stick-on microphones, which again, links below, and you basically stick these little furry microphones over these microphone holes on your camera. Again, does the same job as the phone case, but it's just like a little more sleek looking thing, I guess. So we've talked about settings, we've talked about the setup of your camera, I've given you my go-to video settings for getting better video footage with your GoPro. Now I want to move on to actually talking about shooting decent footage and the best mounting positions for your camera. So depending on what you're riding and what you're wearing is going to determine where you're going to mount your camera. You may be just out for a trail ride and you are wearing an open face helmet, or you might be doing something a little bit more extreme and you might be wearing a full face helmet. Either way, there's some optimum positions for mounting your camera to get the best footage on either the open face helmet or the full face helmet. There are different places you can mount cameras on these, and there are some places on the helmets that look better than others. So for example, if I was wearing the open face, we're pretty limited as to where we can run the camera, because if we run it under the peak, it's going to impair vision too much, and because these helmets are so lightweight, the helmet will end up being pulled over your face and it's not going to feel comfortable at all. So when we're mounting these cameras, the only real place we can mount them really, on the helmet this is on top of the helmet like that. And the footage on this it's okay. I mean, if you're after trying to get point of view footage that makes people feel like they're riding the trail that you've just ridden, I would definitely opt for a different position. Okay, so if I was out trail riding and I had a bag with me, I would take the chesty mount with me because it's pretty lightweight and pretty small and packs down quite slim. And I would pretty much just mount the GoPro upside down on my chest like this, because the chest mount I think is a better camera mounting position than on top of an open face helmet for point of view mountain bike video footage. You're gonna laugh when I say this, but one of the things I've been testing recently to get great point of view footage, which I'll put some examples on the screen now where I've been using this, is actually, I don't know if mounting is the right word. I've basically been putting the GoPro in my mouth and like this, and riding like this. I don't know if GoPro would approve of me doing this, but they do actually offer mounts that you can buy that go in your mouth. So there is a market for it, whether it's for mountain biking or not. It actually looks pretty decent footage. When you put it here and you're riding, you can see handlebar, you can see trail, you probably can't hear what I'm saying right now. Well, it actually looks pretty good. If I were to crash, you could just open your mouth and drop the camera. I don't know. I do risk things to try and get some good footage for you guys, so I hope you appreciate that. Don't come back to me if you do crash with GoPro in your mouth, because it's just a recommendation. It's not like I don't know. If, for example, though, if you're going riding, you've got a full face, obviously you can mount the camera on top of your helmet, but again, I think there's better ways to mount a camera. I've been testing the camera under here, under the peak, which a lot of helmets nowadays are good like this. If you look at where the camera sits, that is going to be in my field of vision quite a lot. In fact, I'll show you. Now, it is quite bad sat there. I can see, it's not too bad actually, but this helmet is really light. It's probably one of the lightest helmets actually out on the market. Because this helmet is so light and the GoPro is, it's a fairly heavy little thing, it's pulling my helmet forwards almost. Let's put some goggles on and see what this looks like. Put some goggles on. And it's not actually that bad. The goggles actually help to hold the helmet in place. If I actively look up I can see a black square, which is the GoPro. But if I'm looking at the trail, like there isn't that much in the way of my vision. So that's, that's pretty cool. And this footage looks, I think this footage looks awesome. I used this pretty much to document all my Enduro World Series racing last year when I was wearing a full face. Really convenient, didn't get in the way for racing, and the footage looked awesome. So as well as that, I've also been experimenting with this helmet with another different mounting system which mounts to the chin. As you can see there, I've actually made a little homemade mount at the front there. There are companies that do make these specifically for different helmets, so again, I'll put the links in the description below to these companies, but there's a company that specializes in mounts for specific mountain bike helmets called Ninja Mounts. They make some awesome mounts. I've not tested it yet, but I'm sure they make a Ninja mount that has this GoPro. You can fit this GoPro a bit further up into here, so it's out of the field of vision even more. And they also make a mount here as well, which is it's a proper stick-on mount. It's not like a makeshift bodge thing that I've made here. So that's what the mount looks like, and here's some sample footage of what it looks like on the trail. So you can obviously mount the GoPro to your chest as well when you're riding in a full face. I literally love having the camera as close to the eyesight as you can, just because that gives it that real-time feel that you want to come across in your videos. People are asking as well, what cameras should I buy? So here's my take on that. I've got a couple of GoPros here. These are old GoPros, right? We have quite a few of them. Oh, sorry, this is a Hero 4 session, we've got a Hero 5 session, and a Hero 5 normal, and a Hero 7. Now, if you get a Hero 7 or a Hero 8, the jumping quality from these cameras to this is night and day difference. But like I was saying earlier in the video, why I haven't got a Hero 8 yet over a Hero 7 is because the differences from a 7 to an 8, I don't personally believe are a huge jump. Okay, fine, the stabilization might be slightly better, and there might be a couple of other features inside the camera that are a little bit better, okay, but there's not a huge jump between the 7 and the 8. I will be upgrading to an 8 soon just because I love new technology and I love buying new things, but for now, and pretty much every single video you've seen in the past year or so on our YouTube channel has been filmed on this Hero 7 alone. This is enough for 95% of people. And also if you go onto GoPro's website, they've also got pretty good deals on cameras as well, where you can trade old cameras, working or broke. They don't even have to be GoPros, and they give you pretty big discounts off the new cameras like the Hero 8 and the Max camera as well. So if you think GoPros are expensive, there are ways to get pretty big discounts off the cameras. Okay, so we've talked about the setup of the camera, we've talked about my go-to video settings for video, and we've also talked about how to get the best mounting for shooting decent videos on the camera when you're out on the trail. I'm going to round this video out with giving you a couple of my recommendations as to what accessories I would buy for the GoPro camera. And just to add to that previous bit on the cameras, we were talking about the Hero 7 and Hero 8. The last 4 or 5 videos that I've done, and a lot of the GoPro footage I've done up here in Leathen, has been on a Hero 7 with this GoPro Karma Grip gimbal, which is a fairly big bit of kit, and this sits, believe it or not, this sits on your chest. If you've never seen one of these before, this big thing sits on your chest. This is the battery, and you can actually GoPro do sell an accessory where you can put this battery in your bag, and then there's a cable to it and stuff, but to me it's all a bit of faff. So I just run this on here, and then you set the camera up and it films really stable footage. On the stabilization side of things, the stabilization on the Hero 8 and the Hero 7 versus the stabilization on gimbal I think is a different kind of stabilization. As you'll see in this video, I'll put some video on the screen now where you can see me using the Hero 7 with the gimbal on my chest. And you can see there's a slight bit of lag as the gimbal's working in the corners and stuff. That's not a bad thing, it just looks a little bit different than the stabilization you get on the standard Hero 7 or some Hero 8 footage, I suppose. Stabilization in the camera is really good, but the gimbal is just like next level stabilization. It's like a different kind of stabilization. So if you're thinking, do I need a gimbal or should I get a gimbal? Hopefully the videos I've just put on the screen will show you the different types of how the stabilization looks between the cameras and gimbal. So yeah, that was pretty much my round out of 20 or so GoPro tips from trying to help you guys improve the GoPro footage for your mountain bike videos. I only wanted to focus in this video on the video side of things. If you guys want, I probably will do a part 2 of this where we'll focus on photographs, so how to get really cool photos for your Instagram, how to create content, how to edit photos, all that sort of jazz. If you did like this video, give it a thumbs up, helps us grow, helps the Instagram algorithm boost and show us to more people, so definitely do that, give it a thumbs up, and the bottom right hand corner of the screen, click the subscribe button, click the bell notification as well so you don't miss any future videos, and let me know in the comments as well if you've still got any GoPro questions, happy to answer them, and I hope you enjoy this video and we'll see you in the next one.